Welcome back, everybody, to the Spiritual Uplevel Podcast. I'm your host, Jeri Cristine, and I'm excited to bring to you today our guest, Gena Bradshaw Vitale. Gena has just an amazing story of being a two-time cancer survivor, which led to her starting her business, Holistic Human Performance, and writing a book, A Survivor Story. Gena, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to hear your story. I can't imagine surviving cancer two times, and you're young. You're just
Yeah.
very early 30s. So let's begin by telling us that story.
Yeah. It's funny when you say like you can't even imagine. I heard the saying where it's like if everyone threw their luggage into the street, like you would always choose your baggage at the end of the day.
That's so
And
true.
it's so true. And so I'll condense it. It's a long one, but I was 3.5 years old when I was diagnosed with leukemia, which is a form of blood cancer. That was a near death experience. Like absolute miracle I survived that. And grew up in a very holistic, like sporty, fit fam. My parents are entrepreneurs as well. We have a family fitness business. So I just grew up in a family where health was always number one. And we're very like close knit. I'm the oldest of five. We all just have a really good time together and have a great relationship. And so um later on throughout my life continued, when I was out of the woods around like 6 years old, I was able to go like back to school. Ironically enough, one of the teachers had told my parents, hey, we need to leave her back because she can't read. And my mom was like, she'll be fine, don't worry about it, and kept it going. And it's ironic because I write books today, so
You're
it's
an
like
author now.
funny.
Yeah.
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 And so played sports, did my thing. I did struggle in school, and I found this out later on down the road that I had something called chemo brain, which your brain becomes, specifically the left side of your brain becomes affected by like the chemotherapy. And so I had a really hard time with like mathematics and numbers and things like that. So all those limiting beliefs come up, as a kid, as a teenager. I never, kids are resilient. However, my family, I never went to therapy. I do not blame my parents for this because it was a very traumatic experience and it's kind of like opening, that can of worms. So like I didn't have the tools in terms of, I would say, expressing my emotions in a healthy way. I internalized a lot. And so, but thank God for sports. Let me tell you, I got all that aggression out in
Yeah.
sports.
Yeah. I was going to say, I bet that was really shocking for your family being such a health conscious, health focused family to have a child with such an illness. Like you
Yeah.
said, near death. I can't, again, I
It's
can't imagine for your parents.
I know, like I like think about it all the time. And listen, our going into more of like the spiritual aspect, our souls choose our parents when we come into this earthly form. And I needed them to help me along the journey, to teach me and, to help me grow and things like that. So it's kind of interesting knowing what I know now, looking back at the whole journey and all the breadcrumbs. I do write about some theories that I have in my book, A Survivor Story, as to how kind of that could happen. But I won't even get, that's like a whole different topic of conversation.
Sure. Sure.
Um, so anyways, down the road, I end up going to Ithaca College, studied exercise science because I knew at the age of 10 that I was not going to be sitting behind a desk. I was a very active kid. And I it's funny because I did grow up in an entrepreneurship family. And so when I did go to school for exercise science, I also ran track and fields, finished all 4 years. And, I had professors being like, oh, are you going to like, continue with the family business and like go into entrepreneurship? And I was always like scared. I was like, I don't know, like just seeing what the ups and the downs and the highs and the lows. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I don't know. So I kind of resisted that for a while. Um, at age 20, so my junior year in college, I had a really bad migraine. It was like literally school was ending in 2 weeks, finals, state championship meet. I went to the health center. She starts feeling, my sinuses, my lymph nodes. She gets down to my thyroid by your neck, and her face completely changed. And I was like, whoa, what's that face? She's like, I don't like what I'm feeling by your thyroid. Like it feels very enlarged. You need to get a biopsy immediately. I'm like, what does that even mean? I didn't tell anyone because again, I'm that type of person where if something's going on, I need to handle it first and then I'll like express it and I'll talk to other people about it. Handled it myself, did not tell my parents, did not tell my coach. Went to an ENT. He was like, you need a biopsy. We don't think, no one thought it was thyroid cancer at this time. And so got a biopsy like at Cayuga Medical Center, upstate New York by myself. And
Wow.
they were like, we don't think it's anything, blah, blah, blah. Lo and behold, I talked to my parents. We get everything like handled, and it was a 4.3 centimeter nodule, which was pretty big.
Oh my God.
Um, Thankfully, it was encapsulated, and again, we did not know that it was cancerous at this point in time. So no one was too like rushed or concerned to like do anything about it. They were like, "All right, come home." So I finish up, come home. I end up getting the surgery in 2014. Um, I always tell this part of the story when I was interviewed, could like always be your own patient advocate. I went to two different doctors. The first doctor was like, listen, we're going to take out the whole thyroid. You're going to do radioactive iodine, and then you're going to be on medication for the rest of your life. This is like a pivotal moment with my intuition. My entire body like cringed. It just like was like, nope, that's not going to work for me. I said, no, I can't do that. That's not going to work for me. He was stunned that I even said no. And I ended up going to a second doctor, very conservative in nature. And he was like, listen, you're young. We're going to take out half unless I see anything different. It seems to be encapsulated, where you don't have to do radioactive iodine. You will not have to be on medication if you take care of yourself. Like, fun fact, you could function on 1/3 of your thyroid if you take care of
Wow.
yourself. That's
Wow.
exactly what I did. And it is going on almost 11 years now since I've gotten that surgery and no medication. All is well. I've never felt better in my entire life. And I am currently expecting baby number one.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank
I
you.
commend you for listening to your intuition first at such a young age, and secondly, just with a doctor. I mean, so many of us go to the doctor. What the doctor says is what you do, right? And you don't
Yep.
listen to yourself. I know when I was your age, I had some health issues that led to early menopause, and I didn't listen to my intuition. I listened to the doctors. And I knew for years I was having early menopause symptoms, and they kept saying, no, no, no. And then when it was finally like there was no other option but to say this is what it was. They were like, "Oh yeah, that can happen when you're 18, you know?" And so I
Yeah.
really commend you. Like that's huge that you did that. And it
Thank
sounds
you.
like that was a pivotal moment for you with
Huge.
determining like your future and what you're doing now.
Yeah, because I look back and had I not listened to my intuition, like who knows if I would be able to conceive, if I would have had fertility issues, like, you know, God doesn't make mistakes. Like we have these glands for and organs for a reason and you know, today, knowing what I know now, would I have gotten the surgery? Probably not. But at that age, you know, I didn't know really too much about it. And it was something that kind of had to get done. So I did it. Surgery was the recovery was brutal. I ended up coming back though, and then finishing out my senior year and graduating on time and all the things. So, resiliency is definitely a huge part of my story.
Sounds like it. So how did that lead into you writing a book and, pursuing this wellness journey, which I know is probably, like you said, your parents already had a wellness business, but it sounds like what you've done is taken that and made it more holistic. So
Yes.
how did tell us the rest of the story? How did that lead? How did your experience with cancer lead into this, what you're doing today?
Exactly right. Okay, so I grew up in a very Catholic family. I went to Catholic school my whole life up until college. And I always was intrigued by like readings and energy healings, but I never actually did anything because of kind of like those limiting beliefs and fears that others put on you. Like, no, that's the devil's work, whatever. And when that point hit at age 20, it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm healthy. I run track and field. I'm athletic. I eat pretty well. What's going on here? Like, there's more to the story. And so I always talk about like the foundational aspects of wellness and health and like sleep, nutrition, movement and exercise. Those are the foundations. However, we have these other components, and this is like my core messaging of what I teach others. We have the mental and emotional component, we have the spiritual component, and then we have the energetic component that like ties all of those, I call them buckets together. And so I started to like just become intrigued and fascinated post college of Eastern medicine, herbs, so much that I became certified in a lot of these different modalities: sound healing, Reiki, integrative energy therapy. And along that journey, I came into contact with different coaches, mentors, healers, and you know, my family wasn't like too accepting of it in the beginning, but I said, listen, guys, like this is helping me and I don't care what you say. So I'm going to keep doing me.
Mhm.
So now my family is like fully on board seeing what I do and how much it has helped me and other people. And like I see it sprinkled in them where like one of my brothers is a physical therapist, and he'll like will ask me questions, oh, like what herb do you think about this? And so it's pretty cool to see kind of like how it's come full circle. But a lot of people would give up. They would say, I'm being judged, I'm being criticized. When you're the light, you do attract, it's like moth to a flame. Like you're gonna attract people that don't believe in you. And it's like a lot of these limiting beliefs and fears, like that mirror that comes back to you. So I just stuck with it. I didn't even care. If I could eat books, I would. Like, I am one of those people. I love to read. And so, I just kept bettering myself, learning, kind of expanding my craft. And I was working with our family fitness business, and I came to a point and I was also like, I was working a lot and I was very much in my masculine energy. So, I mean, that's a whole different topic, but I was very much kind of just like push, 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 hustle, 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 go, 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 where I did neglect my intuition still. So I wasn't fully on board yet. And I kept getting this soul pull where it's like, no, you got to like lean into this more. You got to lean into this more. However, where I was working, and by the way, I was making good money. So, it's hard because you're like, oh man, like I got to make this leap. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
2020 comes around, all hell breaks loose in the world. And, right before that, I kept getting this nudge like, you're going to leave, but wait. So my intuition was saying, but wait, don't make the leap yet. Don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. 2020 comes around, and that was when I made the leap. I was like, peace, I am out of here. And that's when changed a lot of things. Come around, I had an annual oncology checkup for the thyroid, and it ended up being fine, but they found nodules on the right side of the thyroid. The way that it went about, it just like no bedside manner, totally freaked me out, triggered me beyond belief. I left that appointment completely in tears, crying in my car, hyperventilating. And all of a sudden, I just got this like wave of peace wash over me. And it's just like, everything's going to be fine. Like, it's all going to be good. And I'm like, what? And then I got this download. You're going to write a book about this. I'm like, what? And so from there, I didn't take like action. I just kind of was like always pondering on it. And I had this opportunity to speak about my story, and I pitched them to talk about like holistic health and how it really helped me on my cancer journey and just like transform my life. And they're more medicalized in the Western, so they didn't really like that and they denied me. I looked at the presentation and I said, "Oh my goodness, these are the chapters to my book." So I took that and I literally opened up a Word document and I just started writing. So I don't know if you've ever heard of automatic writing. Are you familiar with
Yeah.
that?
Yep.
So I didn't know what this was at the time, but I was in automatic writing mode. Like I would read what I wrote and I'd say, I don't even remember writing that. So it was very cool to intuitively be doing these things. I didn't have like names for them or knew what they were. And then I published, I again, you don't know what you don't know. I'm like, what do I do with this book now? I have a whole manuscript. So I started looking up some different like publishing agencies and I ended up getting it published in 2021 and then kind
Wow.
of took me from there and yeah, it unfolded a whole journey of kind of saying to myself there's more. And then I started holistic human performance in February of 2022. So coming up on 3 years.
Wow. So I know some people will be wondering, so explain to the audience what is automatic writing.
Yeah. So automatic writing is something that is very intuitive. You get into a meditative state. So personally, when I love to write. I've always loved to write, and that was actually one of the ways that I was able to like express my emotions as a kid. And so I would set the tone. I would set the vibe. I would light a candle, maybe put some aromatherapy. I had some crystals around me, and I would just get into a state. I would take a couple of deep breaths. I would get into a meditative state and I would just open up a Word doc. Or, if you want to write in your journal, you just ask your guides, your spiritual team, your higher self, whatever you want to say, to come through and write through you. And that's pretty much what automatic writing is. And then you just write. You kind of black out and you don't remember what you actually wrote. And it's like this higher intelligence, divine intelligence just coming through you, and you just allow, you just receive, and you're just the conduit.
And then when you're done, you're done. And when you go back
Yes.
and read it, it's like, wow.
Yep.
You-
Who wrote that?
yeah, that's when you realize it came through you because it's it's always so beautiful. Wow.
Hmm.
So you've written a book. Okay. And then holistic human performance. Explain to us what all that entails.
Yeah. So it basically is a compilation of all of my experience, my learnings, teachings, the innate wisdom of a combination of holistic health, energetics, and spirituality. It is basically tying the two between spirituality and science, two sides of the same coin. And teaching people, it's like an integrative educational platform, things that you did not learn growing up. Most of us, maybe you grew up in a household where you did, but
Nope.
most of us did not.
Up in a household like yours had a similar
Yes.
experience.
Yes.
Yep.
And, it's just so important to teach what energetics actually is, what the buckets of like what is actually health? What does that actually mean? And so like bringing it back to the basics, and basically I break it down into different buckets. So mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, and energetic. And that's always where I start with my clients, students, just core messaging. And then from there we kind of unravel like what's going on. But all in all, it's all about reclaiming your health from a holistic perspective, which is the interconnection between mind, body, and soul, to help you transform your life and find your soul's mission and purpose. Along the journey, I found that health and purpose are directly correlated. You
Mm,
literally cannot have one without the other. And, think about how many times in life you've been so unhappy and unfulfilled and your health suffered. Probably a
yeah.
lot of us. And then you come to a point where you find what you love to do, and you're able to actually like add value to the world, and your health like is exponentially better. And you're like,
Yeah.
So that's where I fuse the two together to help people, literally just reclaim their health, learn the energetics of it, the energetic root causes of diseases, integrate into your life. That's the number one thing that most of us neglect. You can learn all you want. Knowledge is power to a point, but if you don't integrate, what does it matter?
So,
That's just what it comes down to. So that's what I
so
help people do.
that is brilliant. And I love seeing that you're doing that because we are a whole person. And if you just take a look at one aspect of those, then the others are suffering or they're not in alignment. And I love seeing that more people are beginning to look at the whole picture. It just makes so much sense. Like you said, combining science with spirituality. There, it's not two separate things. It's all part of creation. It's all one thing.
Yes, it's all one thing. And if we look at most people, when the health system fails them, that's when they turn to this kind of work.
Yes. Yeah. And then
Most of the
sometimes
time.
it can be too late. So let's talk about that. So I believe that most illnesses are and stuck energy.
Yeah.
Like for you for example, you said that you handled everything yourself. You didn't have a good way to get it out there. Would you agree, or do you feel like your second cancer was maybe linked to that you had stuffed things inside instead of letting it out?
Absolutely. I definitely agree with you. So when I look at, we'll get into more of the energetic aspect. So when I was first diagnosed as a child, you're thinking, how the hell does that happen, right?
Yeah.
So aside from the fact of like the logical 3D things, which I won't get into right now, I, from an energetic perspective, said, oh, this is a lesson for the people around me. And this is past life stuff. This is ancestral cycles, traumas, lineage. And I guess I chose to be the cycle breaker
Yeah.
for my family. Now, what I also learned, I'm very much into shamanism. In shamanism, they teach that the eldest girl usually always gets the most trauma and healing that has to be done as opposed to a firstborn male. And I am the firstborn female of five. So I chose to be the cycle breaker. And so when I look at that at 3.5, yes. Then fast forward, all that trauma builds up. You don't know how to express yourself. You have emotional turmoil. I blocked out a lot of that stuff as a child because it was so traumatizing. And I did, this happens to a lot of people, have like health anxiety unknowingly though. Like I didn't even like consciously know that I had this. And so then when I look at, okay, where was I diagnosed? Okay, it was the thyroid. Speaking your truth, speaking your
Yeah.
story, not wanting to, at, so at a young age in my book, I talk about this really funny story where I did a lot of speaking events because I survived. I gave back like a lot, tenfold. At 13, I did a speaking engagement with like 100 businessmen and women for Children's Medical Foundation. George Ross from The Apprentice was there. And like, I didn't think anything of it. Like, I was 13, like, you're not a teenager yet. You're not really like, you don't have like that self-esteem issue yet. At least I didn't.
Mhm.
Fast forward, age 16, I ended up doing a speech uh, at Cipriani's in New York City with over 1,000 businessmen and women for Children's Medical Foundation. Now, here's the difference. All those speaking engagement were basically against my will. I I didn't want to do any of them, but my parents were like, no, you're doing that. Like you're giving back. And I'm very grateful that they did that because it helped me with like my speaking career today.
Oh,
However, I'm 16 years old. I have braces. I have acne. I look all crazy. I don't even remember what I was wearing that night. I just remember my face being plastered on plasma screen TVs. Uh, Elvis Costello was there, Ray Romano was there, and Melania Trump was there. I literally gave a speech in front of all of them at 16 years old. Okay. Now,
Wow.
this was all against my will. Like, my mom
Yeah.
lied to me. My parents lied to me. They were like, oh, yeah, it's like the first time. It's like, nothing. I walk in there and I'm like, I'm not doing this. Like, there's no way I'm doing this. They were like, you're getting your ass up on stage and you're doing it. I'm
So
like,
you were speaking, but you weren't
but it,
speaking your truth.
exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
So you kind of mentioned this. I actually remember choosing my parents and choosing my life. That didn't make it
Oh,
any.
you remember this?
I do. I do.
Wow.
But that didn't make it any easier. That
Yeah.
didn't make it any easier. And I want people to hear this when we're talking about how stuck energy can create, illnesses from a cold to a major sickness. That's not something to feel guilty about, like you made it happen somehow, because it's unknowingly. If you knew it was that's what was happening, you would stop it. You would change direction. So I think it's important for people to hear that, but it's also important for people to hear that because, like you're saying, when you realize what's going on, there's tools, there's ways to redirect that. So one question that I have for you is, do most of your clients come to you when there's a problem, or are they coming to you from the beginning? Because I know most people are blissfully unaware until there's a major problem, and then all of a sudden they desperately need to do something.
Yeah, they're coming to me at their last straw. They're coming to me at their last straw, at their wits' end. They're like, I have no idea what to do. But these client, I call them soulmate clients and like soul tribe community. These people are those who are awakened. However, they have no idea the direction to go into. They don't have the tools. They don't really have the knowledge. They just know they're awake and they're like, now what? What do I do now? Like, how who, how do I build my health team? How do I, train my intuition? Because I always speak about this a lot. Spirituality, there's science behind it. It's actually called the neuroscience of spirituality. There is a legitimate docking system in your brain that if you are open to believing in something greater, whatever it may be, it's actually neuroprotective over your brain. So it fights against Alzheimer's, dementia, anxiety, depression. Dr.
Wow.
Lisa Miller talks a lot about this and her work. And so when I started to learn about that and come from more of a science background, and the most important part is to be able to explain usually the why, right? Sometimes we can, and that's okay. Sometimes we don't need to know the why. But for people who are just starting out, they're like, I don't understand. Like, how could this happen? And I always like to say, you know, in a manifestation practice, they talk about like you kind of like do it to yourself. Yes and no. Like you don't want to, I don't blame myself for what happened. It was just part of my journey. It had to happen because now I'm at this point where I can help other people, right?
Yeah.
And we can quantum leap. We can kind of cut corners in terms of like it's really these tools are a preventative measure so that you're not passing this along generationally, and also you're healing your entire life where you're not stuck in this survival mode. You can actually thrive. Like I look back and I'm like, damn, I was stuck in survival for most of my life. Fear, survival, worry, but not consciously. It was subconscious, which is 95% of the actual show. That's like the hardware to the software. And a lot of us will take on these limiting beliefs. So, you know, let's just say if you were 6 years old and someone called you stupid and you never forgot about it, it just stuck with you. Your body always keeps the score, whether you know it or
Reading
not.
that book again right now.
It's so good.
So
It's such
good.
a good book. And it's
Mhm.
true. All of that information is true. Your body, stress, trauma, All of those things keeps the score in our organs, in our fascia, in our muscles, in our skeletal system, in all of our physiological systems, and also the energetic component, right? Energy medicine, our chakra system, our energy bodies, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, energetic. So when we can combine the two, it's like we can kind of, I don't want to say kill two birds with one stone, but that's basically what we're doing. It's like,
Yeah.
you're getting the education, but you're also able to come from a place where it's not fear based. You're able to take action where you feel like, oh, like I have some control. I have the ability to utilize these and actually make a difference. Here's the thing, it's your choice. You have free will, so you could choose what to do with it.
That's the key, isn't it? It sounds like you're saying that really the awareness is the key, the pivotal moment, and then free will choosing to do the things that, we need to do in order to keep moving along that path.
Yes, absolutely.
So, of all of these aspects of a human that you're working with that create health and vitality, is one more important than the other? Like is it like a pyramid where there's like a foundation and then it builds on itself, or is it just like everything works together and when you're working with a client, whatever comes up first comes up, or is there a foundation?
That's really funny that you just said pyramid because that's literally my illustration for the methodology that I have. It's literally
Okay,
a pyramid. So
awesome.
it's a pyramid. The bottom is fitness, food, sleep. Then we have the middle part, which is mental and emotional. We have the top of the pyramid, which is spirituality, and then I have a circle that encompasses that, which is energetics. I would say the most, I don't want to say most important, but when we look at it, energetics is what ties everything together. And when I'm working with a client, I have a questionnaire that they fill out first, and I call it like the buckets. So I'm like, I'll ask them, okay, out of those 5 buckets, which one's overflowing? Like too much, you're too concentrated on it, like putting way too much energy into it. um which one's empty, you're completely neglecting, and which one's even keel, which one can we just say, okay, let's just put that to the side for now. And then from there, that's where I kind of break it down because, is it the chicken or the egg? I don't know. So that's kind of like what we have to work on. I work also with a lot of spiritual and wellness entrepreneurs, and I will see a lot of healers where they completely neglect their health. They completely neglect their health. And that's where I have to start with them. Like, you got the tools, you're in tune, but at the end of the day, if your body is that vessel, so if this is not cleansed out, if this is not clear, you will not be getting downloads, you will not be able to hold space for anyone. Like, you will have no energy to do your work. So it's kind of like, we got to look at both. But I would say energetic would be the one that really ties it all together. It all starts with energy at the end of the day.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I agree with you. I've seen that even with myself. Like I focused really heavily on the spiritual, energetic, emotional, and then I noticed I was getting really tired and I needed to start focusing on my health and my diet more.
Yeah.
And I've seen that in other people. There was a time in my life with the early menopause where I was on medications and getting blood work every 3 months. And it was just such a roller coaster that I felt like I lost 6 years of my life. And one day,
Yeah.
all of this, like you, I'm a voracious reader. I just can't get enough. And one day, like God said to me, if you believe everything is energy, then believe that you can be healed. And this is not medical advice. I'm not advising anyone to do this, but this is what worked for me. I went off my medications and I was like, I just worked on all those other areas. Like you said, I just believed that I can be healthy and I started living as if I was healthy. And ever since then, my blood work has been fine.
Yeah. I
And I
mean,
feel
it's
so
the
much better.
belief.
Yeah.
It's this is where people get a little like worked up, I would say, where they're either too much in that 5D or they're too much in the 3D, but we need to be able to bring them both at a happy medium. That's definitely a gift of mine where I can help others really ground it down. And look at it from both perspective, both logical, but also from an energetic perspective. And, a lot of people would just write that off and they would neglect getting that download and being like, yeah, whatever. They would just write it off and continue what they're doing because of the fear mongering, that happens with when you go to the doctors. It can be very scary. But again, like you have to listen to your gut. Like your body never lies to you ever.
How do you teach people to do that?
It takes time, but I always say that we're mostly, especially in today's society, we're stuck in our mind a lot and we need to be able to ground into the body. So a lot of these tools, grounding practice, like taking your shoes off, like literally just standing in the grass, like just and that will
Mhm.
help you. But really one of my favorite things to do is like a lot of body-based tools. So this is where I'm actually this is cool. I'm very excited for this. I have an app that's coming out in a couple of weeks and it really helps people to integrate these tools into their daily life. So, body-based tools, breath work, movement, we have emotional freedom technique, aka tapping. We have sound healing. Sound healing can be considered both, depending if you use like tuning forks and you actually put them on the body.
Mhm.
However, just those simple tools of moving your body, breathing correctly, and using like acupressure points, tapping on those points to help bring you back into the body. Um, a really simple and easy way to tune into your body and listen to it is place one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly, and just take a deep breath in, maybe for a 5 count, and then you exhale for 5. And you envision breathing in from your heart space and breathing out from your heart space. And that's like a super easy way to just like drop down and anchor into the body.
Beautiful. I can see how passionate you are about this and how effective you must be.
I
Um,
try. Thank
I
you.
love it. Like everything you're saying is just resonating with me so much. So, I'm excited to read your book, first of all. So, one
Thank
of the
you.
questions that I ask everybody before I let them go is what is one book that you recommend everybody read? And obviously,
Mm.
we're recommending your book, A Survivor's Story. Can you get that on Amazon?
Yes, you can get that on Amazon, Audible.
Okay.
I am narrating it myself, so you will hear
Nice.
my voice. You can get that on ebook as well. I
Okay.
also have two other books that are journals. One's a gratitude journal and one is the wellness journal. So again, to help you just really easily integrate these practices into your daily life. Those are all on Amazon. So yeah,
Okay.
you can find it all on there.
And
Um,
then what is one other book that has guided your growth along the way that you would recommend?
okay. So this is, I don't want to say a hard read, but it definitely, based on what I'm saying and my teachings, it brings it together. One of my favorite books is The Energy Codes by Dr. Sue Morter. It really just like started putting the pieces of the puzzle together for me. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like this. And she has a very heavy science background. And to hear her journey of being in that science background and being heavy into like the western medical field and shifting over and utilizing both to help other people and teaching you that even though you can't maybe you have the intuitive ability to, but most people cannot see energy, but you sure as shit can feel it. So it really teaches you how to tap in and like educate you on the why as well. So the energy codes by Dr. Sue Morter was like a game changer for me.
Nice. Um, what is there was something else I was going to ask you and I completely lost it.
That's okay.
Oh my gosh. What is one thing that you wish everyone in the world knew?
that you have the innate wisdom within you. You have all of the answers within you. Go inward, get still, get silent, and listen to what your body is trying to tell you. Those soft, subtle warning signs, symptoms, those are all signs from the body letting you know, hey, this is the medicine you need in order to heal and move forward in your life. And a lot of us will put we'll give our power away to external sources, but really we need to come within and we need to come back to the self because that's really what will guide us to what we need.
That's such that's such a good statement. I think there might be, I'm just feeling like there might be a lot of people who are sick or going through something that are going to be really attracted to your message today. And you mentioned in the beginning of our interview, chemo brain. And I know
Yes.
I'm going clear back to the beginning, but i- is is that fixable?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't even like every I always yes, I should have said that too.
Yeah.
You can heal your body of anything. If you can heal your body of cancer, you can heal your body of anything, okay? So, chemo brain, now I did not it's just like something that happens to your brain with like the medication that you're taking. Some people it's worse. Really, it's just like kind of this fogginess. It can affect certain parts of your brain where you can't process properly. It could also, I will say, too much can cause toxicity and it can cause problems in terms of developing another form of disease. It can affect your nervous system, motor skill development, so just be aware of that. If that's the case, detoxing your body is key. That is like, and that's something that I help people with too, because you also want to do it the proper way. However, it is absolutely something that you can work on and get better from. I wrote about this in my book. I did not know that I had something called chemo brain, early on, but it kind of gave me a sense of like, oh, that's why I'm so bad at math. Like that's why I can't process numbers in my brain. But also I look back and I'm
Makes
like,
sense.
who cares? That's what calculators are for. Like, I don't care. That limiting belief is so far gone. So, just putting that out there. But yes, you can absolutely heal. Fish oil is really great for the brain, like really like your brain needs a lot of good fats. So that and also pairing with like the foundations of health, but detoxing from a lot of like the stuff that has, the chemicals that and toxins that have built up in your body. So
Nice, nice. So, Jenna, I have a feeling that a lot of people are going to be attracted to your message. How do people find you?
yes, thank you. So you can literally find all the goodies at holistichumanperformance.co. You can also find me on social. My personal is at Gena Bradshaw, which is GenaBshaw. And then the business page is at Holistic HP. And then you could also find my podcast which is called Holistic Human Performance Podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have really enjoyed this. Everything, like I said, everything you're saying is just resonating with me on every level. And I want to end with just the reminder that you said minutes ago that you have the innate wisdom within you. Everyone does. And we just need to tap into that and trust it.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. We could talk for hours.
I agree. We'll have to have you back another time. Thank you,
Appreciate. Thank
Jenna.
you.